Nation, Harry back with you, and I'm wearing the old-fashioned Windows logo sweater. So that was kind of fun. I found that the other day in my closet, Chris, with Chris Timm, a longtime friend of the family of SMB Nation. You're across the pond in the UK. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, I'm all good. Thanks, Harry. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, author. I mean, you've written your first book, and I can relate to that. It's, hopefully there's a second one in you. You'd be amazed that a lot of people do a one and done, and they're like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, so, I kind of said that actually after the first one, right? I'm never doing it again. And now I've actually started putting pen to paper on the second one. So I'm on my way.
Okay. Well, let's first talk about it. Please reintroduce yourself to the SMB Nation community. And then I'm going to ask you a little bit about your business model. Then we're going to get to the book and tell people where they can find it.
Sure. So my name's Chris Timm. I'm work at Sondela Consulting. It's an MSP consulting firm specializing in helping MSPs get the best out of their PSA tool, or predominantly Autotask. My background is that I ran an MSP business way back in sort of 2008, somewhere around there. I sold that business. And then I actually went to work at Autotask in the UK, and I headed up their pre-sales team and later built their implementation and post-sales team. So I've got a huge amount of knowledge in running an MSP, working with the MSP industry, and then, of course, on the Autotask product as well. So now I provide consulting and training services to MSPs specifically around PSAs.
Cool. And are you restricted by geography? So is this only for UK-based MSPs, or are you zooming around the world, as we say, and helping people in the far reaches?
Actually, that's an interesting question, Harry. I mean, I actually have more clients, believe it or not, outside of the UK than I do in the UK, right? So most of my customers are in the US, weirdly. Now, that does pose some issues in terms of obviously physically being in front of them. But in this new normal, it's kind of really easy to be working with those customers because, like you said, we got Zoom. And a lot of what I'm doing is over Zoom. So it's actually fairly easy no matter where we are in the world.
Well, and I'll tell you this as an author, my experience has been, it's a lot like a rock star or musician, that you're not famous until you're about 300 miles away from your hometown, right? So if I'm playing in Seattle, people know my story. But if I go to, I'll tell you, back in the day was Australia. So when I go down to Australia and talk about small business server, there's a geographic perception, right? Even though it's still me, and I could be the same in Seattle. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. But let's get to the book. So your first book, PSA Profitability. What's going on?
So it's a book. The title says it already. It's a book all about, getting the best out of your PSA tool from a profitability perspective. So, the first few chapters go through deciding on a PSA tool, which is the best PSA tool to use for your business. Then goes through kind of the implementation side, how to plan for the implementation, that kind of thing. And then goes into, in part two, goes into actually setting up the PSA tool for profitability. And then shows the kinds of reports that you could pull to actually see how profitable you are from on a customer perspective, as well as overall in your entire business.
Interesting. Why'd you write the book? Is this your calling card? And I'm the first to admit, a lot of my books are nothing more than a calling card. They're not bestsellers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it is a calling card. It's 130 odd pages big. It's never going to get to the top of the New York Times bestseller, and that wasn't the point, right? The point was to write the book to really help out MSPs to get the best out of their PSA tool, to understand how to get the profitability information out of it. And just had a lot of fun writing it, right? Because a lot of the questions actually that I get asked in consulting calls is pretty much what's in the book. So setting up things like your burden rate, setting up, costs of services and how to do that. And so I took a lot of the questions that I got asked as part of my consulting calls and put that into a book form.
Well, I want to double click on that. So again, this is kind of fun. An author interviewing an author. That's kind of cool. So you've hit on a really key point. And so when I did the SBS resource kit a lifetime ago for Microsoft Press, and I had to ghostwrite it, you're paid to not have your name on the cover. But what we did is we monitored the news groups, right? This is back the Microsoft news groups for SBS. And then I also took it upon myself to do the Yahoo news group that Wayne Small and Gray Lancaster and some others were kind of maintaining. And that's where we got a lot of the content for the resource kit, because let's just, let's just turn to a page, but client application optimizations, and that leads into the fax client conversation. It's entirely likely that those pages came from posts on the news group where people were asking questions about the fax client. So you've got a really sound methodology. Basically, you can crowdsource your content, right? When you just think that way, the book kind of writes itself.
Well, I wish it had written itself, right? Because it was a lot of, as you know, right, author to author, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into actually writing a book, and many kind of backspacing, and no, that's not going to work. That sentence isn't going to fit right, and so a lot of that, and then of course putting it in front of an editor, and they rip the entire thing apart and go, actually, this isn't going to work at all, and you've got to start again, right? So I'm sure you can identify with that. So a book that writes itself, I'm all for that.
Yeah, no kidding. And the book is available. Where can we get it? Do we go to your website? Are you selling it privately, which means more money in your hip pocket?
So both. There is a website, which is PSAProfitability.com, and okay. And also my friends at Amazon are helping me out as well. Got to line their pockets as well, right? So,
well, I would offer you're helping them out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, poor old Jeff Bezos. I mean, the guy's got to earn a few more bobs. So, so look, you go to Amazon on, .com.co.uk.
Oh, sure.
Whatever it is, on all the Amazons, and it's available in paperback and on the Kindle.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just curious because I, shortly after this resource kit for Microsoft Press and some other publishers you see above, I got in pretty early in self-publishing, and that was a game changer. And we'll kind of wrap on the notion of what publishing and books are, is that what I found was the gold went to the publishers. When I wrote for the traditional publishers, you don't make as much as you might think you do, right? And when you go to self-publishing, once you have the audience, right? So I built up the list at SMB Nation with the newsletter and the events. You have the capital, and then you also can put, the workflow, right? The publishing workflow. So type, edit, layout, print on demand, that kind of thing. Chris, you don't need a publisher. That's the bottom line.
And I am the publisher. So, I did a lot of research into this, and if you just buy the ISBN number at Amazon, they own the publishing rights of the book, all that kind of stuff. So I actually went and bought my own ISBN numbers, and that's therefore right. I became the publisher, and all Amazon is doing is distributing the book. So they, of course, take their cut anyway. It's around about a third for anyone who's interested to know that. Amazon takes a third for their pocket.
Oh yeah, at least.
And the third goes to printing, and the poor old author gets the other third, right? So, but yeah, everything's done under the company brand, so under the Sondela Consulting. Sondela is the publisher, and all Amazon is doing is distributing it. So, and even with that model, I still don't make as much as I would if I probably did it differently or had a different distributor. But the point of the book isn't to make lots of money. It's just to basically, like you say, it's that calling card book.
Yeah, it is. And I want to check back with you, Jenny, over in the radio control room. Let's check in with Chris after the first of the year. let's all catch our breaths. 2020 was a humdinger to say the least. So let's just all catch our breath. But love to double click down into the table of contents of the book a little bit more, and also find out how you're doing on your next book. And like I say, I'm really not here to talk sales volumes, because I get it. The last 2 books I've done are really a calling card. I wouldn't even want to tell you how few I sold. But I give away a lot of books, and it gets me business, and I'll do that all day long.
Well, I mean, you say that. I mean, I got like 50 printed, and I've just been giving them away to people, sending them, because again, like you say, the whole point of it is not to, well, from my point of view, it's not to make lots of money out of it, and it's not to become a bestseller author, on the New York Times bestseller. It's purely to help people to understand how to get the best out of their PSA tool from a profitability perspective. And if I can do that through a book, and I can say to somebody, if they make one change in their business and they're able to read those profitability reports correctly, and they're able to set the PSA tool up to show them the profitability, then my job's done, right? So
yeah.
So I'm quite happy to kind of give that book away.
All right. Well, congratulations on the first book. Love the cover. I get it. I understand what you're talking about. And hey, we'll talk to you after the first of the year in Q1 and just see how you're doing and how that second book's coming along.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Harry. Really appreciate the invite to be on the podcast.
All righty.